So I found a new switch, or a switch V2, which is actually how they defined it at GameStop, where I managed to pick this up. That's right, the GameStop near me did get a few of these in. They mostly got in the colored Joy-Con controllers, so I have like the neon ones. They're separate sides from the ones that I bought like separately, so technically I can make the whole Switch, I guess, one color, whether it's blue or like the neon red, but it looks like I did manage to find one, which is good, because I wasn't sure if we'd get them in stock anytime soon. It seems kind of touch and go, depending on where you're located, but I did manage to find one. I like the box, by the way. It's all red, like all the way around. There's a little bit of like some white here, but I think the all red really does well to show that it's Nintendo, obviously, right? But all red all the way around. So today I wanted to spend some time tearing the Switch unit down, and I have a Switch V1, I guess we'll call it, is what it showed up in GameStop system as and what they're defining it as. But I have the Switch V1 motherboard here, and I have a feeling the only difference may be the chip itself. I think a lot of the other stuff is going to be very small and minor, but if it's different, we're going to find out here today, because we're going to break this thing all the way down to the chip and take a look. As for the Joy-Con controllers, that'll be in a separate video tomorrow, where we'll tear down the Joy-Con controllers that come with them, because they do have a different model number somewhat, and we'll see if there's any differences there between my older ones and the ones that come with it. So make sure you guys hit the like button if you enjoy what you see here, if it's entertaining or you learn something, and let's see what we have here with the Switch V2. All right, so first things first, it is packaged exactly how the other Switch system was, where we have two Joy-Con controllers here and the main Switch here. This is all I'm really concerned about today. However, it is packaged pretty much exactly the same. Like, it's not really different at all, to be honest. So there you go. But as far as I can tell, the dock is the same. Everything else is the same, minus the model numbers on the main unit and the Joy-Con controllers. So there's unfortunately not much of an actual unboxing to do here, since, again, you can pretty much just look up a regular Switch unboxing and get the same idea. So let's go ahead and put this guy to the side here. And again, we'll check out the Joy-Con controllers in a video tomorrow. So here is our main Switch unit. I haven't really turned it on or checked it out at all yet, but I can tell you it does have a different model number, HAC001, and then there's parentheses -01. So this is a different model number as opposed to what we've seen with the other ones, which is just straight up HAC001. So far there we at least have something different to go on. Everything else from what I've seen is the same. The kickstand feels the same. It's still the same plastic kickstand. There's really not much other improvement that I can tell right off the bat just from holding it. So again, unfortunately, not much there when it comes to that. The only reason I would really look into buying this is if you do want that extended battery life, which, I mean, let's be honest, the extended battery life is very, very compelling. So I guess we'll get the back off and start seeing what's different. So as expected, with the back off, this all looks exactly the same. We looked at the pictures a little bit with the FCC, at least I did, and they didn't look any different really. So I kind of expected most of this teardown to be exactly the same as like a regular Switch teardown. I really wasn't expecting to take the back off and notice anything massive or crazy going on in here right away. It's mostly going to be to when we get to the chip itself, which we're actually almost there now. So inside, it mostly looks the same, except for some different components being moved around slightly. Just as an example, this is the older one here, this is the newer one here. There are some components around where the charge IC is, and it looks like they've just mostly relocated some of them. For example, these have been moved down slightly here, closer to the charge port. This was the main chip I remember having to replace right here. This is actually the one I replaced it on to fix it to where I can use it. And it looks like it's the same chip for the most part. The identification numbers actually on the bottom are different, but the overall ones that we look these chips up by at the top are the same. Also on this side, there is a large cluster of components that are just straight up missing from here and here. And that could be a few things, just the way that they have redesigned some of the board. Because remember, we heard that the board was going to be different because they had to change it up for something which they seem to define as the chip being different in some way, and we've been able to identify that the Switch Lite chip is different physically, so we would expect this one to be that same chip. But yes, components around the chip have also been moved or just removed in general. I'm actually trying to figure out where they would have moved these to, and so far I can't really spot it very easily. So yes, they have at least moved some stuff around, and they definitely needed a new motherboard, as they said in that FCC document. So let's actually go ahead and pull this off and compare the two chips. Okay, so with the cover off, we can see the two RAM chips, of course, right here, and then we have our main SoC here. And I'm actually going to go ahead and remove this one, and we can get a really nice side-by-side. I'll take some good pictures of this so you can really see. I have to clean off the thermal compound here, and then we can kind of put them side-by-side and see if it's any different.
Okay, so I moved over here because I figured it'd be easier to kind of take a look at a couple of higher definition shots rather than try to hold it up to the camera to see, you know, what everything reads. It'd be kind of difficult. So what I did was I got some very close-up shots of both chips next to each other pretty much, and we can just take a look at them and see what's different. So what we're looking at right now is the older Switch. This is actually the launch Switch that I had, and this is our Tegra X1 as it was supposed to be before the Switch. And remember, they mostly used off-the-shelf parts to drop it in there. They pretty much added a way for it to use 4 gigabytes of RAM rather than 3, and that was apparently because Capcom asked for it. Who knows how true all of that is, but yes, 4 gigabytes of RAM attached to what was a stock Tegra X1 with customized frequencies and clocks and everything. But take note of the differences when you're going to see the other chip when it comes to the ID on the chip, and then the differences of the resistors and components on top of the chip. So if we move over to Mariko, as it should be, it looks a bit different. Now, the resistors on top are in different places and everything, so physically, yes, the chip is different. And this is where you, the viewer, or anyone out there who has a lot of expertise with Nvidia chips, specifically IDing them or being able to recognize some of the inscriptions on top, will come into play. I'm going to upload a high definition shot of this right here, this the inscription on the top of the die, so you can take a look as well, because I can't seem to find this anywhere online. And I mean, that should be the case, we assume, right? If this is a brand new chip, as we have come to figure with Mariko, then we would not be able to find this chip online at all, really, right? So it's kind of a mystery as to what this is exactly, even still, after tearing it down and taking a look at it. So here's the thing that I noticed right away. There's not really much of a difference between the size of the die or anything from what I can see. I did some very rudimentary measuring and everything just to see if there was any obvious difference. When I looked at them side by side, there wasn't really much of one. So I'm not really sure as to anything about a possible die shrink or anything. I'm not sure there. I think the chip is probably going to have to be X-rayed to really tell what's happened. And this chip, of course, is going to start showing up in the red box Switch systems, the newer ones that are going to be replacing the old, and then supposedly the Nvidia TV, the Shield TV that they're putting out, the set-top box. So this chip appears to be used there, and I assume it'll also be used in the Switch Lite, as taking a look at the resistors around this compared to the FCC document that still had the thermal paste on it, it looks the same. So yeah, this chip is being used, from what I can see, in the Switch Lite and in this newer Switch revision, with some small tweaks to components around the chip, as we talked about earlier, with like the power IC and kind of the parts around it that help out being moved or even eliminated completely. Now, as far as I can tell, the number that everyone will focus on is the bottom number, ODNX10-A1. 1837A1. I'm not really sure on that one. I mean, it seems like that might be, I was talking to people, maybe a batch number or anything. Again, I'm not as familiar with all of the numbers on top of a die for a GPU, and that's where, again, people will come into play to help out, hopefully. And ODNX10-A1 is different, obviously, than what we saw on the regular one with ODNX02-A2. So yes, this is a different chip in some way. It does not, from what I can tell, like I said, appear to be any kind of obvious die shrink or anything, but it does appear that they have changed up the X1, probably with the security flaws patched and everything, but obviously with a power saving benefit to it, where the Switch Lite is going to have better battery life despite having a smaller battery, and this Switch has the exact same battery as we've already heard, but with significantly better battery life. I also took a picture of the RAM, which has also changed. The numbers and everything, ID has changed as well. Wasn't able to find anything on it, but this is supposed to be low power DDR4X. So it should have a power savings benefit to it. Again, we've seen that with the battery, but I'll also upload this picture as well so people can go through and work to identify it. I looked up just some of the numbers and basics and everything, and nothing really came up. So again, it's probably something that's been designed for the Switch or around the Switch to go along with this new Tegra Mariko chip. So really the bottom line is this new Switch has a revision of the X1 in some way, and it does help to save battery life significantly. Now, at this point, I'm going to put the thing back together and actually use it and play on it. But I went ahead and sent this picture, a couple of these pictures, to a few other places to give them kind of a head start looking at it and everything. And maybe we'll get more answers as we go along here and as more of these Switch systems start to go out to the public. At this point, I was mostly aiming to tear it down and get a face-to-face look with the new chip. That way we could put that information out there for people who are, again, experts at this kind of stuff to kind of take it from here and see what they can find. But interesting, like I said, to see the Tegra start to change things up, make a few jumps, I guess, and become much more efficient, it seems. So exciting stuff there. Now I'm really curious to see where Nvidia takes the Tegra line, considering it's actually making money now. That's the biggest thing. If something doesn't make money, why would the company continue using it? And the Switch has stepped in and given the Tegra a place for consumers. So interesting stuff. We'll see what happens here going forward. Maybe the chip will get X-rayed. Maybe people will find more information about it, and I'll let you guys know and keep you up to date on it. Thanks, guys, for watching. Make sure you like the video if you enjoyed it, dislike it if not, and I'll see you guys next time.